Hey, and welcome to my hair shader for Unity Asset Store. So as you can see here, there's 5 examples that are created, ready to go, and this is how they look when you first buy the asset pack. Made some crazy fire one, blonde one, purple, brown, and black with little highlights. So as you can see, it does look a little bit noisy in the viewport because there's no anti-aliasing filter or anything like that. I do have it made up of three different three different meshes, and there we go. I'm just moving them apart there. And it's just to show the effect. So each mesh is just rotated instead of offsetting, the cutout for each hair, or making loads of hair planes. This is just 3 meshes where their UVs go from top to bottom, and this is how that shader looks. So it was made in Shader Forge, as you can see here, and I have a base color, which you can change, and the amount of gloss. So instead of making a separate slider, I just have the gloss channeled in here. As you can see, I've named it this way just to save the clutter. So again, change the color, change the gloss. Let's go for a nice green tone here so we can make something quite unique. This here is the smaller hair plane which you might use to place all around a head mesh. So this one's ready to go if you wanted to use it. Otherwise, don't worry about it. If you've got your own hair plane set up, this is just purely an example. So across the way you can see that it uses the normal map, and we can easily tile that. This is the specular color that gets picked up when light hits it. What color does it change to? And it replaces the base color, and that's the power of it. So it's kind of for that more metallic look, or like dual tone. You see it's really noisy. Maybe we can show you how to fix that. So here I'm using MadGoat, but it doesn't show until we play it. We'll just set that up. Let's get the camera. Control Shift F realigns the camera if you've got it selected. So I'm just playing it with the MadGoat shaders on. There's some post process as well. So this is the values you can change with MadGoat. So MadGoat is available on Unity Asset Store, and I think it costs about $10 or less. Bought it fairly recently purely for to use with the hair, but obviously I can't supply it with it. You'd have to buy that separately. So in the top viewport, you don't see MadGoat working. It only works at runtime. One of the reasons I chose to use anti-aliasing in a post-process fashion is because it works better with cutout, alpha cutout, and I found that alpha transparent had ordering issues like I don't know, the transparency layering order, depth buffer nonsense, where things would just overlap other things. So here I'm changing a few more values. This is the normal angle, and you can mess about with that. That just bends all the normals. And that's basically how I fill it into this anisotropic look. It's set on green instead of mid-blue, so it bends the normals like down. I'm changing other values. See, this is the first hair shader that I created, so there's a lot of control, and maybe a bit too much, and it can be confusing, but there's a lot of things driven through the alpha channel, so it's a case of just trying all those things as well as the sliders and other values. This texture here's got varying color built in. As you can see, if I put a different texture in, you can see how that changes the look of it. You can put any texture in there you wanted. all it is strands of variation in color and tone. And there I was just trying a different texture to show you how that changed. So there is an animated effect on this hair, and it's controlled by the motion. So it's fast to the left and slow to the right. I know it's a bit backwards, there's still refinement to be made with these shaders, but I don't want to go back on them in case people have started using them already. You see there's a crazy amount of motion here, and it's also based on world space, so the hair gets a slight offset. As you can see when I move it, the hair changes. I think it's just to simulate the micro movement. If you had it on a character, then the hair would move a little bit, and you can change that amount quite easily. Obviously, hair wouldn't move this much in real life and at that rate, so you might want to control it with other means like bones and morphs. And you can also use this shader over and above for small movement. I think overall the effect would be nice. Here I'm changing the tip color and the tip amount. Again, these values seem a little bit backwards, but it's just a case of playing with the values until you get something you want, regardless of what number's shown up. Just change the base color to blue. Try a different bunch of colors here. Already there's so much tonal variation in this hair. It's a little bit cartoony and funky, but nice. It kind of looks like kind of horizon hair. Again, just messing with the normals until you get a look that you want. And if you change mainly the green channel to get the normals to where you want them, you don't want to scrub the hue too much because it ends up going a bit weird. Gloss variation multiplies into that texture I've got there, the tonal variation texture. You can put any texture in there you want, and the gloss variation just multiplies into that, so you get a bit more variation for the tones. So all these textures, they're all working together, and by offsetting their horizontal value, you get so many strands in there and cuts. So it works quite well. Here's the second shader. This one's a bit more optimized. I've taken away some of the sliders and put things into the gloss, the alpha value of each color. So there, I've kept the gloss in the alpha channel, the spec color power, so how much color gets through. Spec color basically overwrites the base color, so that's definitely something I could optimize and find a better way to do. You can see that the normal map doesn't tile so well up and down the way, and I've used a few different meshes there, so they could be cutting through, I'm not too sure, but keep your normal map less than 1 on the Y, and you won't get any vertical tiling issues, and then you can mess with the X value to see how much repetition you want in a normal map. You can see how it's bending in the normals there, and then creating more strands similar to the other one. It's just the repetition of the cutout. You can try any texture you like, or make it any texture. You can see that finding a decent noise texture and tiling it so many times you'll get a grainy look to the hair. So again, this graininess will be eliminated when you use a post-process temporal anti-aliasing or MSAA. Like Mad Goat does a really good job at that. Here's the third shader, which is just the same as the last one, but this one has no backface culling, so you get the two-sidedness. So you can see, just use the full UV space. I've used several different meshes here, two different meshes actually, just to, one's rotated against the other one, just to have that variation in cut, plus it's scaled down a little bit. In real life, you would create your own alpha planes. You can use the ones that are available, or make up your own ones, or just apply this to your own hair hair, and it should work fine. If you've created your hair in such a way that the UVs aren't 0 to 1 and somewhere else, you could either go into your 3D modeling program and change the UVs and give it a separate material so that you can use this hair shader on its own, or you can find a way to mask it out. I could always create something shader like that, but it gets tricky with offsets and tiling and stuff like that. But a mask might be an optional thing. So here I'm making like a dirty blonde hair. Just going to show you how to make that. So you get a base color, kind of reddy blonde. Changing the spec color. And here you see it uses an RGB texture. I'm going to show you this in Photoshop. If you don't have Photoshop, you can use GIMP. Anything that can look at the channels. So red channel is your cutout, green channel is the tonal variation, or the value, and the blue channel I use to control the tip. So instead of driving it through the shader, it's good to have that secondary variation. You can do whatever you want with this. Maybe we can make a new example up in a second, but that's basically how that works. So we tile all three channels here. There might be a way to make it so they're separate, so we can control them individually for each channel, but these are how you control the colors. So this channel, the green channel, is basically your color here that gets mixed in. We'll see that a bit better if we change the color completely. You can see a slight bit of tonal variation here. And the second one, this is the tip. So I'm keeping the changes quite subtle just to be more like real hair, but you can go crazy with it. A bit more red, some blue, and change the amount that gets pushed in, or not at all. And again, the normal bending. This way, this time it mixes these two normals together. So you can change the repetition of one and the other one and get two normals working together. I think definitely the next iteration of the shader, I'll be working on the ability to change the UVs of each of the channels of the color controller, like the cutout, the the grad one, the tip, the tip gradient one, the tip gradient two, to be able to change those UVs independently would be good. Maybe we just need the one normal map again, but two different UV um, channels where you can change the tiling of each one, and it does mixes it internally. The way I've got it set up here, you can bring in two different normal maps if you needed it, but I think you'd probably get away with one. And the tonal variation I could probably make better as well. But here you can see it working, mixing the two colours. There's kind of dirty blonde look where the roots start to come in darker. And there's also a little bit of a translucent effect built into the shader, so you might have to control that through any of the colours you're using, maybe tone them down a little bit. I could actually control that later as well. That could be another feature to adjust. So here's the final one, and the way I tried to work this was to have this green channel where you see it's yellow here. It's mixed with the other colours, so it turns yellow. But that's the green channel, and try to make it so that it landed in the middle of the hair. So you can see this pattern here. It's got like a little bit of a rim round the edge. That's just the Fresnel that's built into the shader, and plus I think it happens around about the mid area. So this whole mesh is using the full 0 to 1 space across. The little hair clump there is just using it once. You can see that kind of white band in the middle and the two sort of dark areas. That's driven through this texture. So we could easily change this up a bit to see how that looks. So red, change that to black. So you can see how that's looking, how much power that comes through. Change the tiling. Muck about with this vertical offset. You can see not such a good idea because you'll spend a bit of time trying to fix it back and you end up with something like this, and you're like, oh, why is it, it's coming back in at the bottom. It's basically because the UVs just repeat, and the way the UVs are done, you don't make them go full 0 to 1. You want to miss a little bit at the bottom just in case whatever the cutout texture is doesn't show up at the other side, because it's that kind of effect. And you might find it hard to get back to where you were, but all you have to do is change this back to 1, change that back to 0, and you're back to normal. You only want to control basically the X tiling. You barely have to touch offset. There'll be a way to control that later. So here I've got the gloss there. You can see the two nice strands coming through because it's tiled roughly 3 times across the way. You can tile that some more, but it gets a bit obvious what's happening. And it would be good to go in and like change that. So there's 3 different channels. You've got your red, the cutout, the green doing the different values, and we've got a blue channel that controls the tip. Now we could easily make a new one. So let's duplicate this base one and see what kind of effect we can get. Again, if you don't have Photoshop, GIMP will be able to look at different channels of your texture. You can make up these quite easily. I'm just changing the green channel and the blue channel, which currently drives a gradient from the bottom to the top, which gets multiplied by the color you give that tip, so you can get the tip effect. But here I'm just going to add in some tones. Right, so anything dark is going to keep the original color, and anything white is going to use the tip grad 2 tone. Let's just change this a bit as well, just to show you how easy it is. Let's just grab some black and do some crazy strokes. And the way I want to make the next shader is that you can create one of these cutout effects and drive the UVs in different ways, and the shader itself will mix a copy of this itself into itself. That way we don't need excess meshes, it doesn't look all uniform, and that's going to be in the next update for sure, along with other stuff. But that's going to be a whole separate shader. So this is the optimal shader, which optimize some of the older stuff. But the next shader is going to be the ideal shader that does hair just the the way that everybody expects it. It's so far so good. It's going to be usable, but you might want to swap it out for the newer one coming. There we go. I've made some red strands in there. It's already looking like a character I'm remembering. I don't know, some kind of superhero character. I won't mention any names, but it just looks like red highlights, and it's really nice where it mixed with the black and the red. And you can make up your own ones quite easily, so that's just a new one created. I'll likely keep that there. Mess about with the values again. So you can imagine if that was like any sort of hairstyle, as long as each hair plane did go 0 to 1, you can color each tip. I should really make up a bunch of hairs for you to use, but why not just make up your own? And it's so easy to make. You could go into Blender and make a hair plane. As long as the UVs are 0 to 1, then you can apply this material to it, and then you can make copies all around the hair. Use a two-sided shader, or if you didn't need that, use one of the cutout shaders, the backface cull shader, which is in one of these heads. Here I'm just mucking about with the normals, blending to get a nice look. And even without any anti-aliasing, that looks pretty decent. Just tinkering with values. I can't leave these values. I'm having too much fun just messing about with this hair shader. So you might just enjoy it just for that. If you've maybe made a character and you want to get the hair to look good on it, instead of going through any other third-party rendering software, you can definitely just bring it into Unity, apply this hair shader, and you can control all the hairs for a lot of unique looks. So this is purely for Unity only at the minute. Don't really plan on making it accessible elsewhere. But yeah, so it's a bit of fun and definitely be used in any games where there's characters with long hair, at least any length of hair. So you got your cutout channel, and ideally the next thing I want to make is where I make copies of it internally and it multiplies over itself to make variation. So you basically only need that one RGB texture. I'll just show you what I mean here. So if I was to copy this a couple of times, change that to multiply and move it, you can see already how it makes that variation. So if I can give you guys controls of those UVs, which will just channel into the same texture, and you get that variation in there. So you can change the offset and the tiling amount, which I'll make available hopefully in the next update. apologies if I'm not very in sync with what's happening here, because I did record the video with my voice, but it never recorded the audio. Something was switched off, so I've had to do the whole thing again, and I'm just voiceovering, and I did such a good job of doing a voiceover first time round. Yeah, I'm just going to show you the Mad Goat uh, in runtime and the kind of frame rates I'm getting, considering I'm using a mid-range laptop. I'm recording the screen and I've got Unity open and Photoshop open. I'm using the 950 GTM, so a laptop version. I've got an i7 and 16 gig RAM, so it's fairly decent. It's good for most games, but definitely not like VR ready or anything. So I'm just going to show you extreme quality on the post-process stack. It's a post-process profile I've created with the temporal anti-aliasing, which gives you a nice effect, and you see that in the viewport as well. But the MadGo, you have to run it to see it, and you'll see how it changes the specular values here. It creates a bit more kind of variation in crisp. So have a look at this one, and you can see how that changed. And it's like you can almost see more lines, and you can change this this quality setting here. You see the difference with the off and on. You can see all this variation. It makes it look more synthetic there against looking really realistic. So MadGoat is on Unity Asset Store, and I'm basically promoting this for whoever created it. But it's great for that post-process anti-aliasing. And the reason I chose that is because of the transparency depth issues I had, so I didn't want to use transparency fall off. If you wanted, you could go into the shader and try change those values, change like if you know how shaders work. I've basically created this in Shader Forge and I have no idea how to change the scripts themselves, but here we can see it's running at a decent frame rate, but as soon as I go in full screen, you'll see how that will change. So maximize on play and play that again. And you can see that's down at 29, 30 frames per second. Again, I'm video recording, I'm using a laptop, Unity's running, and I've got Photoshop open. There's, laptop's not the most powerful. Middle range, and I've got a whole lot of hair shaders happening at the same time here at full scale. I've got extreme, extreme resolution and whatnot happening in the post-process filters. So definitely have a go at it. I don't mind if you try it and you don't like it, you don't find a use for it, I'll refund you. It's available in the Unity Asset Store. By all means, give it a go. If you like it, use it. It'd be great to see what you create. Maybe there's somewhere in the forum that I can post this in and get your feedback and whatnot. Sorry for the half-hearted voiceover of this video. I hope that you tune into my next video, and I will remember to record first time round because I do have so much more character and everything's in sync with the mouse pointer. Okay, so thanks very much again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you, bye.